Between 1984 and 1985, California became the hunting ground for one of the most unpredictable serial killers in American history. A predator who didn't just break patterns, he shattered the very idea that patterns could keep you safe. And his name was Richard Ramirez, though the terrified public knew him by another name, the Night Stalker. What made Ramirez different from almost every serial killer before or since wasn't just his brutality, it was his complete randomness. Because while killers like Ted Bundy targeted young college women and BTK selected specific family types, Ramirez's victims ranged from 9-year-old children to 79-year-old grandmothers, from wealthy couples in gated communities to working-class families in modest neighborhoods. And this lack of pattern created a level of fear that paralyzed entire cities because no one was safe, no demographic could breathe easier, no neighborhood could claim immunity. But here's what most people miss when they study Ramirez. His randomness wasn't actually random at all. It was strategic, calculated even, because what he truly selected for wasn't age or appearance or wealth. He selected for vulnerability in the moment, and that vulnerability came down to one thing: access. Ramirez would cruise neighborhoods between 2 and 5 in the morning, moving on foot or by stolen car, studying houses not for who lived inside, but for what security they lacked. An unlocked window, a door left ajar, a garage with the inner door unsecured. And once he found that entry point, he moved with absolute confidence, slipping into bedrooms where people slept, believing they were protected by walls and locks that had already failed them. The method was consistent even when the victims weren't. He entered at night, he brought weapons but adapted them to the situation. Sometimes a .22 caliber handgun, sometimes a tire iron, sometimes a kitchen knife he found in the victim's own home, and he didn't kill quickly or efficiently like an assassin. He prolonged the terror, waking victims before attacking them, forcing them to look at him, to swear allegiance to Satan, to participate in their own nightmare. Because for Ramirez, this wasn't just about murder or assault or robbery. It was about absolute dominion over another human being in their most vulnerable moment. To understand how Ramirez became this kind of predator, you have to go back to El Paso, Texas, where he was born in 1960 into a household ruled by violence. His father, Julian, a former police officer, suffered a head injury that left him prone to explosive rage and would beat his children unpredictably, creating an environment where violence wasn't an aberration but a daily expectation. And young Richard learned early that power came from inflicting fear. A major influence on him was his cousin Miguel, a Green Beret who returned from Vietnam not only with medals, but with disturbing stories and photos of extreme violence against women. He shared these with Richard when he was just 11 or 12, describing his actions in detail. For a child already growing up in an abusive home, these experiences didn't shock him. They normalized violence, teaching him that cruelty could be accepted, admired, and even celebrated. By age 13, Richard witnessed Miguel shoot and kill his own wife during a domestic argument, seeing firsthand that murder could happen in an instant and that the consequences, Miguel served only 7 years, seemed almost negligible compared to the act itself. From that point forward, Ramirez's trajectory was set. He began burglarizing homes as a teenager, initially for theft, but increasingly for the thrill of invasion. He worked at a Holiday Inn and used his master key to enter guest rooms while they slept, stealing from them and eventually escalating to watching women undress and attempting sexual assault. And when he moved to Los Angeles in his early 20s, he brought with him not just a criminal record, but a fully formed predatory methodology that had been rehearsed and refined over years. What law enforcement didn't initially understand about the Night Stalker was that his crimes weren't escalating from some internal psychological pressure. They were being fueled by external factors, specifically his severe cocaine addiction, which required constant funding and drove him to commit burglaries almost nightly. And it was during these burglaries that the violence occurred, not as the primary motive, but as an available option, a choice he made in the moment when he encountered people in their homes and realized he could do more than steal their valuables. He could steal their sense of safety, their dignity, their lives. The first confirmed Night Stalker murder happened on June 28, 1984, when 79-year-old Jenny Vincso was found in her Glassell Park apartment with her throat slashed so deeply she was nearly decapitated, and Ramirez's fingerprint was found on the window screen he had removed to enter. establishing immediately that this wasn't a killer who carefully avoided evidence. He simply didn't care, operating with a confidence that bordered on supernatural belief because by this point, Ramirez had fully embraced Satanism not as a religious practice, but as a personal mythology that justified his actions and made him feel invincible. Over the next 14 months, the attacks escalated in frequency and brutality. He shot 22-year-old Maria Hernandez in the face, though she survived when the bullet ricocheted off her car keys, then walked into her apartment and shot her roommate Dale Okazaki dead. He bludgeoned 16-year-old Whitney Bennett with a tire iron as she slept and tried to strangle her with a telephone cord, only fleeing when he saw electrical sparks and believed, in his warped mind, that Jesus had intervened to save her. He stomped 60-year-old Joyce Lucille Nelson to death in her living room, leaving an Avia sneaker print on her face that would later become crucial evidence, and he forced his way into homes across Los Angeles and San Francisco, attacking couples in their beds, sometimes killing both, sometimes leaving one alive to tell the story, always leaving behind the psychological devastation that comes from having your safest space violated. What made these crimes particularly terrifying to the public wasn't just their brutality, but their geographical spread and temporal unpredictability, because Ramirez didn't operate in one neighborhood or stick to one type of dwelling. He moved across county lines, attacked in different cities, left gaps of days or weeks between crimes, and then struck multiple times in a single night. And this made him nearly impossible to predict or prevent, turning entire metropolitan areas into hunting grounds where every unlocked window became a potential entry point for unimaginable violence. The investigation itself was hampered by jurisdictional issues, different police departments handling what they initially thought were separate crimes, but as evidence accumulated, particularly the distinctive Avia sneaker prints and ballistic matches from his handguns, investigators realized they were dealing with a single offender, and the pressure to catch him intensified as media coverage exploded and the public demanded action. The breakthrough came from technology. A fingerprint left on a stolen car was run through a newly computerized database and matched to Ramirez, who had been arrested previously for petty crimes, and on August 30th, 1985, 6 days after his final known murder, police released his name and photograph to the public. What happened next demonstrated the power of community response to terror. The very next day, Ramirez was spotted in an East Los Angeles liquor store, and when he realized he'd been recognized, he fled on foot, attempting multiple carjackings to escape. But residents chased him for over an hour, cornering him and beating him until police arrived. And this moment, this capture by ordinary citizens who refused to let fear paralyze them, marked the end of the Night Stalker's reign. During his trial, Ramirez showed no remorse whatsoever. He laughed at victims' families, displayed a pentagram drawn on his palm, shouted "Hail Satan" in court, and when asked why he hurt and killed his victims, smiled and said, "No comment." This complete lack of humanity, this performance of evil, only reinforced the public's perception of him as something less than human, though the psychological reality was more complex. Experts who studied his case identified him as a made psychopath rather than a born one, someone whose extreme antisocial personality disorder was created by a combination of childhood head trauma that caused temporal lobe epilepsy, severe physical abuse, exposure to graphic violence at a formative age, and substance abuse, all of which combined to produce someone incapable of empathy and driven by needs for power and control that could only be satisfied through domination and violence. Ramirez was convicted in 1989 on 13 counts of murder, 5 attempted murders, 11 sexual assaults, and 14 burglaries, receiving multiple death sentences, though he would never be executed, instead dying of liver failure on death row in 2013 at age 53. And even in prison, he maintained a bizarre cult following, receiving marriage proposals from women who were attracted to his dark charisma, with one woman, Doreen Leoy, actually marrying him in 1996, though she later left him when his DNA was linked to the rape and murder of a 9-year-old girl. The legacy of the Night Stalker extends far beyond his body count. He fundamentally changed how Americans think about home security, triggering a surge in alarm system installations, neighborhood watch programs, and a collective awareness that evil doesn't always announce itself with warning signs or patterns, that sometimes it simply finds an unlocked window at 3 a.m. and walks in like it owns the place. And that's the lesson that still resonates today, because while Richard Ramirez is dead, the vulnerability he exploited, that gap between our assumption of safety and the reality of our exposure, that hasn't changed. And understanding how he selected victims, not by who they were, but by the opportunities they unknowingly provided, remains one of the most important insights into predatory behavior we have. A reminder that the most dangerous predators aren't always the ones who hunt specific prey. Sometimes they're the ones who simply hunt whoever's easiest to reach, and in Ramirez's case, that meant anyone who left a door unlocked, a window open, a barrier down, turning ordinary security oversights into invitations for unimaginable horror.